Smokin Gunz podcast. Oh boy. Football in San Antonio is back. It is here in full swing at this point. You are listening to the Smokin Gunz podcast or watching the Smokin Gunz podcast. You may be watching us on Facebook. You may be watching us on YouTube. You may be watching us on Twitter for the first time. We are in all of those places. If you're watching us live, you can interact with the show by commenting to us everywhere but Twitter. If you're on Twitter and you want to interact with the show, run over to Facebook or find our YouTube page, and we can interact with you there. We are a podcast about football in San Antonio. We're a podcast about pro football in San Antonio. All of it, all encompassing, the whole gambit.
Yep.
The San Antonio Brahmas of the XFL, the 2-6 San Antonio Brahmas.
Why'd you have to remind us, Philip?
Well, that it is. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
We also cover the 1-0 San Antonio Gunslingers of the National Arena League.
Yeah.
After a thrilling 41-40 win over the Carolina Cobras, we're going to go into all of that. Guns up, horns forward, the whole thing. We're going to start with the Brahmas because that's what so many people check in for right now. It is the midst of XFL season. We are coming down to the end, 2 more weeks of the regular season. Strangely enough, we talk about the record. We are 2-6, which is not a good record. I don't know if you're new to the world of football or sports as a whole, but 2-6 is not generally considered a very good record. That being said, we are still not out of the playoffs.
Magically,
mathematically, we still could secure a playoff spot and go play Houston in Houston for the third time. Not in Houston for the third time, but play Houston for the third time.
You're in the playoffs. There's a chance.
There's a chance. And you know what? San Antonio has to win 2 games. We could and probably will over the next hour have lots of conversations about how possible that is. The other side of that is Arlington has to lose both of their games. And let me tell you, that's entirely possible. I don't even care who they play.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I mean, Arlington can lose games. They don't in these weird fashions. They should have lost to Orlando.
They should have lost
both games to us.
Why didn't they, Philip? Why didn't they? That's the...
Gosh. Because Orlando is Orlando. And if they can find a way... joined by some of our friends on Facebook and on YouTube right now. Amanda checking in, the lovely co-host of the B-Hawks Live. Hey, y'all. And Michael Wayne Davis, our buddy Michael Wayne Davis, who has secured his own internet fame at this point.
Yes.
As he was part of the season tickets promo for the San Antonio Gunslingers. It was great to see him get interviewed and talk to nobody better to represent San Antonio pro football than Michael Wayne Davis. He has been a steadfast supporter of every single iteration of San Antonio pro football since 2019, probably before, but certainly since we got involved in 2019 with the Commanders. He's been all over that. So Michael Wayne Davis joining us on Facebook. It's good to see him and hear from him. Can't wait to run into him at some games because I get to go to games again. It was so weird this weekend to know that 2 games. My friends were there. I know we're not going to talk Gunslingers, but it was just very weird to watch the Gunslingers feed, which, by the way, was well done, but did have some issues, and I want to cover that in the second hour when we talk about the Gunslingers. But several times, because of the prominence of the Smokin Gunz podcast, we are right up against the wall in the end zone. Our section, they've given us our own little spot there. And so you guys showed up on camera. Like Leo, Loli, RC, several times. You guys would show up, and I'm like, oh, there's all my friends having fun. And I'm sitting here in the living room on a 58-inch TV watching them have fun. Hi, guys. Hi, guys.
We just do.
It was it was a good game. Both games were good games. Let's start with the Brahmas. Let's get all of the Brahmas talk done. And I don't want to say out of the way because there's lots to talk about.
Oh, there's a lot to talk about.
There were bad things, and we'll talk about those. And there are things that we're concerned about, and we'll talk about those. But let me start. Let me start with the most positive thing about the San Antonio Brahmas this season. Parker freaking Romo.
Yes.
That guy is, I don't even care that he missed one. He missed one field goal. It was a 59-yard field goal. It was that's a big ask. That's a big ask.
Hey, look, I love Parker. Parker Romo is hands down the best kicker in the league. I don't think anybody can argue against that. And if they try to, I'll just tell them to shut up.
Right.
But you know that he was probably being the guy that he is and the team guy that he is. I'm sure that 59-yarder really bothered him because it was the difference in the game.
Sure.
He makes that kick, the Brahmas win the game, right?
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that, but you're right. I mean, if he makes that kick, 59 kick,
the Brahmas win the game. You know, a lot of things could have happened, you know, to be fair. If Jacquez Patrick, thank you. I knew it started with a P and it was escaping me. If he doesn't step out on that screenplay that he took almost to the house and we thought went to the house at first until Blandino had to stick his nose into our business.
So I spend, when I'm at home watching the games, I spend some time on the Reddit game feed because it's a way to interact with people and it's real time. And I mentioned that Blandino takes every opportunity to uphold calls on the field.
Yeah.
But when it comes to San Antonio getting a touchdown, he knits together two different angles to make sure he can overturn the call and get the call correct. And I said something like that in the Reddit feed, and I got downvoted because they were like, "Oh, you're just being a homer." And I was like, "No, my point is not that he should have overturned. It wasn't a touchdown. He made the correct call.
Yeah,
that is not my problem. My problem is if you're going to do that here, take that same amount of effort every time you have to review a call. Stitch together different, it kills me that they go to coaches' challenges and they'll go to him in the booth and he has already made the call. Like he's already looked at it enough to say, I'm not seeing enough. I mean, they click over to his little booth there in Van Nuys that he's hanging out in, and he's already saying, yeah, I don't have enough. I don't have enough to overturn it. Take your time. Get it right. And if you're willing to do that for the San Antonio Brahmas touchdown, that's great. Do that. But do that for all of it. Like, that's what you're there for. Get the call right. I understand he wants to uphold his refs. I understand that he wants to back them up. I understand that he wants the calls on the field should be the default call, and you should have to see something obvious to overturn it. But there are times that exists, and he still does mental gymnastics to say, no, we're going to let the call on the field stand. And if you're going to knit together two different angles to make sure the Brahmas didn't get in the end zone, that's great. Do that all the time. That's all I'm saying.
Not consistent.
Not consistent in the way he does it, but he's consistent in his method. Well, no, he's inconsistent in the method, I guess, is what Philip is saying.
Sometimes he uses one angle, and other times he uses two angles. That's the part that is
so he tried really hard to disprove that touchdown by the Brahmas, and that made all the difference. I mean, if that on the field call is upheld, Brahmas win the game. Parker Romo hits that field goal.
In theory, yeah.
Brahmas win the game. I mean, that's kind of the point that I'm making. Like, yeah, it was a tough loss, a tough pill to swallow, but that's how close they were to pulling out the victory, which, coming out of there, I didn't know whether to feel more frustrated or more, proud of the team because they battled to the end. They didn't give up. They could have given up, when they were down with only a couple of minutes left in the fourth quarter, but they realized because it's happened to them that they could turn things around and they actually tied the game and went into overtime. And a lot of, not there were still a lot of fans present to watch the overtime. But a lot of fans did leave.
Yeah.
Understandably so.
I was one of them.
You know, I wasn't. I stayed there and watched to the end, and I was really glad that I stayed. But I mean, those last couple minutes up to the field goal and then the overtime, I mean, it was insane. The people that were in there were trying to help the Brahmas as much as they could, making as much noise as they could when they were supposed to. Of course, there were Brahma players on the sidelines helping us out a little bit in that regard, telling us when to tone it down and when to be loud. But the crowd was receptive to that.
I love the crowd moving to that end of the field.
Yes, people were running, trying to get over there. I don't know how that was. I saw that in the fan page. Someone brought it up, like how was it determined which end zone? Because the end zone that they went to was the one that had a lot less fans that were still there. So I wonder if the visiting team, home team chooses. I don't understand why they chose that end zone. I don't understand why they chose that end zone, because the other end zone is the rowdier end zone. That's where the you know, Steve-O, the bullpen, and all those guys are all over there. And they were still there to the end. Now, a lot of people made their way over and just ran over there and was being loud as they could.
So I'm thrown off. I thought it was in the south end zone, that end zone where they come out of the tunnels.
They come up from the south end zone. Yes.
Right.
They played at the north.
They played the north. Oh, see, I thought they had played in the south, so it made perfect sense to me. But you're saying they played this in the north.
They played in the north end zone.
Yeah, I don't know why he made that call. But he did, because I saw the refs walk over to him and he pointed that direction. So that's, I mean, home team gets to make that call, just like the coin toss. There is no coin toss. The home team just gets to select. Do you want to be on defense or offense first?
How many games have we lost by 2 points? There's been quite a few.
We've lost every game. We've lost 6 games. Mm-hmm. We've lost 6 games. 4 of those have been by 1 possession or less.
Yep. Vegas was not.
And no, that may be the only one.
I think that's the only game that we lost that was more than 1 possession.
Because our defense is ridiculous. They're great. And the only game they didn't play, they didn't keep us in the game. Like that's all in the defense. So Parker Romo, we started all this conversation with Parker freaking Romo, and we have to say what Parker Romo was able to do at the end of that game. Do not discount how amazing it is to stand on the sideline ready to go, get out on the field. Look, watch kickers in any level of the sport. They want every opportunity to take their time, line it up, look at it a few times. It's like golfers. They have a very similar mentality of golfers, of looking at the shot 2 or 3 times. You see Drew Pearson does this, the San Antonio Gunslingers kicker, swings his arm 3, 4, 5, 6 times to see, this is the angle I'm going to swing my leg to kick it on. They like to take their time. Parker did not have the ability to do that. He just didn't. At the end of that game, they have no way to stop the clock. They just have to get on the field. He has to stand in his spot, and he has to nail that kick, and he nailed it. Like they could have been 10 yards further back, and he would have made that.
And it was right down the middle, and it had lots of distance on it. Do you know how? Because I didn't catch that. What was the distance on that game tying field goal?
I'm going to pull it up. I want to say it was 47 or 48, but that may not be right. I'm going to pull it up right now.
Yeah, it was pretty.
I think 47 sounds familiar to me, but I could be wrong.
It was a pretty good distance kick. It wasn't 59 yards like the one he missed, but it was long.
and it wasn't 23 yards. It wasn't one of those you're going to get it
long distance. Yeah,
it was a kick that you have to make an effort on. It wasn't just a chip shot.
But there were so many errors committed by Cohen. No one would even look at Parker or Roma to say, "Oh, it's his fault that we lost."
49 yards.
49. Yeah, Cohen.
Let's talk about Jack Cohen, because I got some opinions about Jack Cohen. I think for the first time in weeks, for the first time since Orlando, baby, Jack Cohen actually played as good a game as he could have played.
with a
Like, I don't.
couple of exceptions, but yeah, he played a lot better than
Yes, he did.
he had the last couple opportunities he had.
He
He did
slid
play
with
Played
his
with
feet.
more conviction. He looked like he wanted to be out there and he wanted to be the guy. He wanted to prove some people wrong. I'm sure he's heard the
Sure.
criticisms. I mean,
Yeah.
he hears the criticisms there at the
In the
game.
stand.
The
Sure.
fans are yelling at him from the stands. So and they're not very nice.
Not at
I
all.
heard some things.
The guy right
so-
behind me, my God, he was one of the fans from the Commanders, and he was like, Cohen, you suck. I mean, it did get annoying after a while, and someone did complain, but
So
I mean, it's not just him.
So Cohen threw 2 interceptions, but let me push back a little bit on Cohen sucks people for a second and say 1 interception was in the 2-minute drill at the end of the half.
That was killer, though.
It was killer.
Got no
you're
points
right.
instead of an opportunity to get points.
You're right, but it is something that happens a lot to a lot of quarterbacks where you're just trying to get too much done and you go further than you should go and you give a ball up. And then his second interception, which, by the way, we were talking a few minutes ago about if this one thing had been different, we would have won the game.
Mhm.
His second interception is that. Like, if that tip in the air and caught by a defensive lineman, I believe, and run back to within 4 or 5 yards of, for 3 or 4 yards of the end zone. If that one play hadn't happened, it's a completely different game.
Yep.
Completely different game. And that, I don't put that on Jack Cohen. That is such a series of coincidences for that play to be able to happen. You can't blame Jack Cohen for that. I really don't think you can.
You expect your quarterback to see the defender there and know that he's got to put a little bit of air under the ball to get over the big guy. You're not expecting him to bat it up and then bat it to himself and catch it and turn the ball over.
I'm looking at a receiver running an out that has 2 steps on his defender. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, but
the fact that there's somebody in between me and them, like, what are the chances that guy's going to get a hand up in the air, pop it straight up so that he can run under it, catch it, and run it back? Like, the amount of things that have to go right or wrong, depending on which side you're on, for that all to happen, I don't blame Jack for that. Like, those things happen. That's a bounce of the ball football play. You can't blame him for that.
Definitely a low percentage play. No, I don't disagree with you there.
But I was not surprised, because I think Hines Ward is still learning. He's still learning to be a head coach. There were several times they showed him on the broadcast when Cohen would get just absolutely hammered immediately on blitz, that they would then show Hines Ward during that play, and he's going, you got to throw the ball, man. And I'm sitting at home going, when is he going to throw the ball? He's taking 2 steps into a 3-step drop and getting hit.
Yeah.
Like, he can't even plant his feet to look out there and see what's available. What do you mean he's got to throw the ball? Like that?
Yeah, the protection is a problem. It's been a problem all year long. He dealt with that lack of protection this game, I think, a lot better than he has in the past several games. Yeah, and which is why he looked better. But I mean, I think I texted you on one play right after the play happened, Philip, where the right tackle missed his assignment completely, went outside. The outside defensive player just stepped inside of him, lane clear to the quarterback, and the right tackle literally just missed him and then turned around and just watched his quarterback get blown up. Just watched it. He didn't even take a step like, oh, let me try and recover. He just turned around and said, oh, did I miss that guy? Oh, look, and then just watched him blow up Cohen. And I was just like, are you got to be kidding me? It was so bad.
I read Tom Landry's autobiography a few years ago. Actually, it was about 15 years ago. And he talked about his very first offensive line with the Dallas Cowboys and how they excelled at what he called lookout blocks. Lookout blocking, which is when the defender gets by you and all you can do is yell, look out!
That's what that was.
And that's what that was.
Like
I don't think he yelled "look out" though. I mean,
he didn't even
give him that
heads up.
He was just watching a train wreck. It was bad.
Protection was bad. What kills me is protection was bad most of the time, but then there were these inexplicable plays where he actually had a pocket to throw from, and I'm like,
yes,
wait a second, we can do that?
There were some plays where he had
We
some
can
time.
hold the pass rush off for a second and allow Jack to look downfield and actually throw the ball more than 5 yards? Whoa! Maybe we should play the game that way. Like,
yeah, and that's what gives you hope, right? That's what makes it more frustrating because you
Sure.
have these moments where the offense, as limited as it is, can actually work, and we saw some of that in this game.
Very
And
small
then
differences.
you'll see, one play later or 2 plays later, you see the same
you're
thing,
like
just back to the same thing again.
right.
Yep.
Right.
No protection, no time. Cohen just, having no choice but to just eat turf or throw the ball away or throw the ball not where he really wants to throw it because
Right.
he's having to adjust for these defensive linemen that were just on him all game long.
What do you got, RC?
I was just gonna say, Pass came in for a play or two, didn't he? Towards the field goal?
Yeah, 1 or 2. He didn't get much playing time.
Not
I
much at
wasn't
all,
even
right?
sure he had touched the field until I went back and looked at stats and saw that he did have like 1 run for -1 yard or something like that.
Yeah,
So
I
he
don't
saw the field
understand that.
some.
What was that all about?
I
That
think he came in on one of their when they scored the touchdown, and I think he came in for one of their conversion attempts.
right.
And it didn't go well. It didn't
No,
go
it did
well.
not.
What that's all about, RC, is just further proof that Hines Ward does not trust Jawan Pass.
Right.
Does he?
No, he
Will
doesn't.
not. He would rather have Jack Cohen in there getting killed than put the ball in Pass's hands if he has the option, because that's what that was his option this week, and he made it clear that, like, I'm riding with Jack Cohen over giving Pass an opportunity. So for whatever reason, whatever he's seen in practice or has seen about the guy, we don't know. We're not in practice. We don't see everything that they see. But the head coach of the San Antonio Brahmas has shown me time after time this season, I don't trust that guy. I do not trust his decision making.
Yep, he's made it pretty clear.
Very
I have no doubt. They just signed Paxton Lynch a week ago. He was inactive for this game, but I have no doubt that it won't be long, probably this weekend, where he'll be second on the depth chart in front of Pass.
Yep.
Because
Pass will not be active for the rest of the year.
Hines Ward has shown that he doesn't have confidence
Barring
in him at this
injury.
point. At this point, he has made it very clear that the whole reason that they continue to hold on to Pass. Well, he was assigned.
That's what you say.
I know this.
That's what you say. You never say about a player on your roster, I don't trust this guy. I wouldn't let him touch the field if I have any other option. Like, you just don't say that. You say something like, I want him to learn. He needs to spend some time watching. He
has said that. Yeah.
And he said those things. But you don't ever say what you really feel. You're never going to hear Hines Ward say, I don't trust the guy any further than I can throw him. And that's the truth. But he's smart enough to know that you can't say that about one of your players. He's not Terrell Buckley. He can't say that about one of his players. And so I don't think Hines Ward will ever get to the point where he's like, no, I'm good with that guy now. He says that right now, like, I want him to learn. He's got a great skill set, and I want him to learn some so that he could be a viable part of this offense at another time. No, he's never going to trust that guy. If he's not willing to at this point, he's never going to trust that guy. And I don't blame him.
Yeah,
if that's how he feels, like, this is your team, this is your job, this is your legacy on the line, I get it.
Well, and the time that Pass has had his opportunities, he's done some good things, and Ward gave him credit, like in the Arlington game, but he's had way too many, a high number of delay of game penalties because he was not aware of the situation. And that can be extremely aggravating for a head coach. I mean, obviously.
And let's be clear, when you're forced into the situation where you have to trust somebody that you don't trust, you cross your fingers the whole time and you go, please don't screw up, please don't screw up, please don't screw up, please don't screw up. And then the very next opportunity you get to get them out of there, you do that. And that's what Hines Ward has always done with pass. Even when he has to put him in there, he crosses his fingers and goes, don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up. Okay, get out of there.
Right. Well, his actions definitely speak louder than his words.
You don't multiply the opportunities that person has to screw up because you're so worried about them screwing up. And I just think it's very clear that Hines Ward just doesn't trust this guy. Yeah. And I got to default, I got to defer to him and be like, okay, if he doesn't trust him, there's a reason, and I don't want him throwing for our team or playing for our team. Mm-hmm. Jack Cohen, Jack, if you're listening, we've mentioned this before. There are probably, I meant to look it up. I should have. There are probably YouTube videos for Little League players that show them how to slide into the base. I need you to go find a YouTube video, bud. I need to watch how sliding works, because you are going, I'm being funny, but I'm not. You're going to hurt yourself falling forward into your face mask as a way of ending your runs. Man, when you've got to run, slide. Learn to slide, brother.
Yeah,
well, he really does. He did slide once, and I did mention it to my husband Jerry. He was there, and so he's like, "Look, he slid first." He's like, "What's the big deal?" I'm like, "It would be a big deal if you listen to our show, because we're always talking about it."
I didn't catch the feet first slide.
No. There was one.
I missed it if he did. I saw a head first one where he almost lost the ball, but he was already down, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, people were nervous for a second there. And then, then also you're just putting yourself at risk. Your head injuries. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. I did go to the meet and greet on Saturday, and I did see Cohen. He was over there at Dick's at the rim. And I mentioned, I'm like, hey, it'd really be good if we can get some positive feedback. Talking to your mom, that would work. Because I know I said, the record is 2-5. Let's do some mom to mom interviews so we can get positive going, getting people behind you. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll tell my mom. So we'll see.
We'll see for sure. Hey, speaking of something that, we don't make a big deal about, but we have mentioned on the show, it looks like we're going to actually be credentialed for this week's game.
Yeah.
That's what the team is currently telling me.
All right.
Good work, guys. We said from the beginning we weren't going to go away. We were just going to keep asking and keep trying. Finally paid off. So.
And so finally the team's like, if we let you in the press box, will you shut up? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
You're talking to the wrong person.
No, I won't, because I don't ever shut up.
I know that. I know that. Yeah, right. But I just want to be on the field. I don't necessarily want to be in the press box. So Jose Jefferson, if you're listening, I don't want to go way up there. I just want to be on the field.
So we'll see how that works out. We're trying. We're efforting.
That's good. That's good.
So what did you think of, we got two opportunities, one in St. Louis, one in San Antonio, to see the XFL's overtime rules. What are your thoughts of the way the XFL has decided to handle overtime?
I like it. It doesn't bother me. I think it's exciting. It goes from one to, it's just kind of like what they do with the what do you call it in the other football in soccer, where they go to the goal kicks at the end. It's also similar to the college system, where it's one possession then another possession. So it's not like something totally off the wall that you've never seen before and don't understand. So I understand it.
Right.
And I think there's a level of excitement to it, because you go from rooting for the stop on one play to the very next play, rooting to get that score. And it builds tension, and it's a lot of fun. And it's more immediate than having to watch a whole possession. And, it's more, having the whole possession is less climactic as this, where it's happening right there. bam, 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 and you're just going from offensive mindset to a defensive mindset and going back and forth and just possession by possession. And it was, I thought it was awesome. It was a amazing experience to be there for that.
Sure.
I like the overtime because it shows like the entertainment value that these games are close enough that there is a chance for overtime. When it's one team, outscoring the other one, the entertainment value goes down. And this is showing two different games that there was overtime. So I think that's kudos to the XFL, to the players that this football is entertaining. Not every game is, but I do like the when it's overtime, it's almost like very exciting. You're on the edge of your seat. You kind of bring the crowd in more.
I love it. I love the overtime. I do. I really do. The only argument I can see is for football purists, which I hate that word, purists, but anyway, football purists, to say it's not really football at that point. But you know what?
It is.
It is. I mean, it's not, because you're not moving a length of the field. In college, you have to move 25 yards. In the NFL, you have to put together a whole possession.
Right.
So I understand how it is. It is a distilled version of football that kind of takes the most fun part of it and just says, we're just going to do that. So football purists could say it's not really football. But you know what? If you want to win with really football, win in regulation. If you're not winning in regulation, you really can't be upset about, I don't like the way they do over. And I've had this issue with NFL overtime and college overtime. And when somebody inevitably argues that this doesn't work either, if you don't like overtime, there's a very simple way to avoid it. Win the game. True. In the regulation. I love that it takes the most exciting moment of football, which is the goal line stand, or and says, we're going to do 3 of those for each team. We're going to alternate them, very much like the shootout in hockey, which is also a lot of fun.
True.
And we're just going to do it that way, and we're going to determine a winner that way. And is it truly football at that point? No.
It's still football. It's football plays. It's just
different.
A controlled situation, but it's still football. And if you want to argue against the purists, I agree with Arlington's comment. He's watching on YouTube. I can see his comment there. Who cares about the football purists? 100% agree. If you're going to be a football purist and you're going to say, oh, well, the XFL, I don't like these rule changes. I don't like this. I don't like that.
Yeah, if you're a football purist, you probably don't like the XFL.
Don't like the XFL.
You're probably not even watching this game.
In fact, I found it funny today. I don't have the quote pulled up in front of me, but Daryl Johnston, who's now the president of the USFL, came out today and made comments about the USFL's kicking rules, which I don't even know what they are because I hadn't even paid attention. But he said, our competitor, meaning the XFL, has changed the kickoff and robbed it of its essence of what a kickoff really should be. And I'm like, are you kidding me? There's 90 some odd % of kickoffs are getting returned in this league, as opposed to other professional football leagues where it's like 40%. What do you mean it's robbing it of the essence of what it should be? The essence of the kickoff is touchbacks. That's not exciting. That's not fun. I like the way the XFL has done the kickoff because they return kicks. They return punts. It's a lot of fun.
It is fun.
I like Daryl Johnson. I think Daryl Johnson's a great guy and a great football mind, and I don't mind him being excited about the USFL. Do that because that's what your organization is, and you think you've got something there. You don't need to go run after another one and go, they're screwing football up. That's beyond that. That's below you, Daryl Johnson. That's below you, Moose. They're screwing up football because they're gimmicky and Hollywood. Come on, man.
No,
it's fun.
It's fun. Yeah, they're staying within the general confines of the game, and just adjusting a few things here and there to make the game a little bit faster paced, to make it fun, enjoyable. I would argue that football purist or not, or NFL hardcore, XFL, it isn't good. The NFL is real football. Like we've seen some comments right now on our Facebook feed. The XFL is not NFL, and stop trying to compare it. And yeah, that's exactly right. But anybody who is on that train of thinking and says that overtime rule or the way that overtime is garbage, I guarantee you they weren't at one of those two games. Anybody that was at one of those two overtime games loved it. I guarantee you loved it. I didn't know what to expect from overtime.
Now,
For sure.
What being there, it was a different experience, and it was amazing. It was awesome. It was
I am
a lot of fun.
somewhat curious about what happens if you get through the 3 overtime opportunities for each team, because they take them alternating for 3 times. And then at the end of that, if it is tied, both games, the announcer said, then it goes to a sudden death
Yes.
play. But what that means, I think they're wrong. I don't think it's actually a sudden death thing, because sudden death means the first team, if they get the ball in the end zone, the game's over. That is sudden death. And I think you have to give the other team an opportunity to match. And so I'm really curious to see if they're right when they say it's sudden death, first team to score wins past those 3 opportunities, because I feel like you've got to give the second team an opportunity to match. Don't you?
I'm curious like you. I would like to know the specifics of that rule. But unlike you, I don't have a problem with if it's an actual sudden death, because each team has already had 3 opportunities. It's not like you didn't have an opportunity to win that game in the overtime period.
I mean, I get that.
Get past the 3rd opportunity, then it's a sudden death, and the rule is the first team to score wins. Then I'm fine with that, because the whole thing is to keep these abbreviated and exciting.
Right.
So let's say one team scores, and then the second team scores. That means you have to go do it all over again, and then it doesn't score. There's no end to it, because as long as one team matches the other. So that's why, in my opinion, I think it would be better if past those 3 opportunities, it is an actual sudden death. First team to score wins. You can't say you didn't get a fair shot. You had 3 opportunities, just like the other team.
More than that, you had an entire time. You had an entire game, regulation game, and then you had 3 opportunities, and then you got beat on their 4th opportunity, and you could go, we didn't get a 4th opportunity. That's not fair. If you don't like it, win it any time before now, and it's not a problem. So I understand that, but I do feel like there is something just fundamentally unfair about that team won because they got 4 chances. That team got 3. And so you never really know if that was fair or not. I get what you're saying. I'm not even pushing back on you, because I kind of agree with what you're saying, but I do see something inherently unfair about, well, they got 4 chances and we only got 3. That's not really fair.
Life ain't fair.
Well, let's see
That's true.
if it gets to that. Let's see if it gets to that ever.
And that's the other point, RC, is the chances of us getting into those situations is pretty rare. The score, the way the scoring is set up in the XFL, you're not going to, I'm surprised we had 2 ties in the same week, because the way the scoring is done with this opportunity to choose 1, 2, or 3 extra points, and all of that is kind of set up in such a way that you shouldn't see a lot of ties. Like that shouldn't happen very often.
It should be a rarity. I mean, the fact that there were 2 in 1 week, I mean, I think that was like a kind of a small miracle there. Yes, I'm glad you're putting this comment up there, Philip, because I saw that and totally agree with the mayor here.
60 minutes of quality football is happening game after game in the XFL. The NFL had several stinkers in 2022. I will say this, Mr. Mayor. I think the NFL in any given week has had more blowout games, or not quality football. That's what I would consider not quality football in a week than the XFL has had all season.
True.
I think in a given week, the NFL probably has more blowout games, not interesting games to watch, than the XFL has had all season this year. Like they've all come down to 1 possession or so. And that's great.
That's good football.
Yep. And just to play devil's advocate, the NFL, the football purists, the pro NFL people will say, well, that's because there's more teams and there's more games going on, a lot more than your small XFL league. But that's not the point. The point isn't the actual number or the stat. The point is that the XFL is putting a good product out there, and the teams are, there's some levity here. There's where any given game, you don't know who's going to win that game. It's hard.
Right.
I wonder how many people have won versus lost money on this Vegas betting that the league pushes so hard.
Pushes so hard
because in the NFL, there's a lot more safe bets than there are in the XFL. That's for sure.
But just apples to apples. Again, we're setting up this big straw man argument of football purists, NFL purists, and we're knocking down this straw man, and we totally understand that we're doing that. But on the other side of that, they may say, hey, that's the NFL has 32 teams. The XFL only has 8 teams. The games, but what I said, if you heard what I said, in a week, they have more blowout games or uninteresting football games than the XFL has had all year. That is, in a given week in the NFL, you can only have 16 games. There's 32 teams. The most you can have is 16 games. We've had 32 games in the XFL up to this point. So I gave you twice as many to choose from in the XFL as I did in the NFL, and I still stand by. I think there are more blowout games in any given week of the NFL than there are in the XFL, and I doubled the number of games to make that happen. So I love the overtime. I love a lot of the rules. There's not a lot of the rules stuff that I look at in the XFL and go, yeah, I don't really like that. Like everything they've done, and I sound like such a homer, like, yeah, XFL is better than the NFL. Well, that's not true. The NFL is the NFL, and it will always be the NFL.
Yes.
But when you look at the rule changes, I've loved before XFL 3.0, back in XFL 2.0, I loved the tiered extra point system. I think that's amazing. I'm a big fan of 1 foot down, which is a change. I like the timing rules. Man, we're getting football games in under 3 hours, sometimes in 2.5 hours. Yes. I don't need to sit in front of the TV for 4 hours for a football game. College football, I love college football, but man, those games are a slog sometimes.
And it's not the football action that's missing. That's not what's getting cut out. It's all the waiting between the plays. It's all the other stuff, the extra, the fluff that's getting cut out. It's not the football action. Yeah, good point there by Scott Brickhouse. When was the last team, the worst team in the league, beat the best in the NFL? I mean, that never happens.
You have some of those kind of things happen, but we've had in one season of the XFL 3.0, we've had it happen.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Arlington says, Smokin Gunz podcast, what do you think? Or do you think there should be scrimmages or preseason?
Yes.
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Well, wait, RC, let me preface this by saying, if you were to add preseason, it would not be anything that would be broadcast, or you would have any kind of a broadcast or crowd for. I don't believe you do that. If you're going to have scrimmages,
for the
that's great.
My comment about entertainment.
Yeah.
Well, I think some of the players need it to gel. Like this season, they went straight as a team. I think they needed the preseason to kind of get their gel together, to kind of get work as a whole. And I think they missed that. Now where you're seeing now that they got a couple of games under their belt, now it seems like they're gelling together as a team. Maybe not so much the Brahmas, but the other teams. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that hurt the league. So the fact that all these teams came in not prepared, they weren't in unison. They weren't together yet as a unit, especially the offenses. In those first couple of weeks, I think you had some curious people that watched on TV that saw this and was like, man, this is ugly football. I don't like this. and then just gave up on the XFL, made a judgment right then and there.
Sure.
And are some of those people that are making the comments and being the haters out there. I think they do need more preparation time, more time to kind of play together as a unit, learn the offense, learn the defense, learn how to play together, and then they can put a better product on the field when the games really count. I think that's really important.
And in the current hub system they're using for camp and practices, there's no reason they can't do that. Like, schedule it. They don't have to be on Sunday. They don't have to be on Saturday, but schedule 1 or 2 scrimmage or preseason games. No crowd. Hey, but if you wanted to get a broadcast crew there and your cameras there so that they could have a preseason as well and help with your production of the game, you could do that. But you don't have to broadcast them. You don't have to put them out there. The AAF did that. I don't know if y'all remember, but the AAF in the Alamo Dome had, I think, 1 preseason game for every team. I think we played the Atlanta Legend, the Commanders. It seems like played the Atlanta Legend in a preseason matchup, just so everybody could feel, the way that it works. Van Hurst says the ice storm canceled the scrimmages this season.
That could be, yeah.
Could be.
Well, I would even suggest if we could have preseason or scrimmage games in the city that they belong to, just so some of the fans could get to see a preview, because we had nothing. We still don't really know a lot of the players. No. You're shaking your head, Philip. No,
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it that way. That's just money. That's just money you're spending.
You're not going to get a lot of return on it. Yeah.
Preseason game. We're struggling right now in these markets to get people to show up for regular season games. A preseason game, you're just going to be wasting money to have everybody travel. You got them all in one spot. You've got the Choctaw Stadium. You own it. You don't own it, but you lease it at this point, and you've got a place to have these games. Just have 4 or 8 preseason games or scrimmages. Do one early in camp. Do one late in camp, just to give everybody the feeling of this is how this is going to work.
So season 4, 5, whatever it is down the line, then yes. But season 2, no. Probably season 3, no. We all know that the goal of the XFL is to eventually have the teams in their home cities. Parker Romo said it on our show last week. That's been discussed. So when that happens, then obviously it's going to be in whatever host team hosts the game. But for season 2, just to send the teams out and invest in the travel and all that to get very little return, it's probably not the smart move at this point.
The mayor says spend that money on marketing, not preseason travel.
Yes,
man, you ain't kidding.
Marketing has been lackluster to me. They do a great job of promoting The Rock, but not a whole lot on other stuff.
I think that's by design. I think they went into this season going minimal output as far as dollars and cents, maximum on having a season 2. And so we're going to have all kinds of weird times and game schedules, and we're not going to market a whole bunch, because if we really screw up, we don't necessarily want everybody in the world to see it, but we're going to have a season 2. We're going to do this kind of bare bones the first season and see how it works. And Dirty has said this on the show. I know Arlington, who's hanging out with us right now, has said this. This season has been an experiment in a lot of ways for The Rock and for Danny Garcia. And when you experiment, you don't necessarily say, "Hey, everybody, I'm going to do a big experiment. Come look," because it could fail.
Sure.
And so maybe the fact that they haven't spent a whole bunch of marketing is just a product of it being an experiment. Because if you raise your arms in the air and say, "Everybody, I've got something really amazing. Look," you turn into Geraldo Rivera opening up the
vault.
Al Capone's vault. And you're like, "Hey, everybody, look, it's something amazing," and it's nothing. And you don't want to be that guy. It's like, you don't want to be Geraldo Rivera. Nobody, I can't stress this enough. Nobody wants to be Geraldo Rivera. Not even Geraldo Rivera wants to be
Who even
Geraldo
still
Rivera.
remembers him?
Okay?
How many of our fans actually know who he is
Yeah,
from the
there's
younger
probably some
crowd?
people out there that don't know
They
who
go,
you're talking
"Who?"
about.
They're Googling it right now. Who is
They do now because he's a Fox News guy. He
Oh,
has reimagined himself. He used to be something completely different for those of you that
totally.
didn't know. And now he has reimagined himself as a Fox News pundit. And that's okay. Do what you got to do. I got nothing against anybody for their politics or whatever. Like, do what you need to do to make your money. But that's not what Geraldo Rivera used to be. He used to be Maury Povich times 10.
Mhm.
He
Mhm.
was that kind of guy. Yeah, Al Capone's vault. Yeah,
Yep.
big thing.
Funny.
And
Did
so maybe
nothing.
it's as simple as that. Is they're still kind of wringing their hands at the beginning of the season and going, we think we have something really cool here, but we do not want to be Charlie Ebersol and be like, ha, I'm dressed in my AAF jacket and doing media stuff all over the place and throwing commercials and huge dollars at marketing and then not be able to make it through a whole season. Maybe they just
I
didn't
get
want to
it.
be
I
that,
get it.
you know? So we've got 2 more games coming up. We've got a home game against Orlando at 6:00 this Saturday. I love that these are Saturday games, both of them. We finally got decent games,
Times and days.
times and days. Man, we got a crap schedule. Like, I'm okay with
Yeah,
just
we
saying
did.
it outright. We got screwed on scheduling this year.
Yep.
That 9:00 game against Arlington was rough. The 2:00 Easter game, I kept thinking maybe that won't be a big deal.
It was
It
a big
was.
deal.
It was a big deal. Like, people
It
were
was.
celebrating Easter. And look, if the team had been 5-2 instead of 2-5, more
Different
people would
story.
have showed
Oh,
up
there
to
would have
the
been more
game.
people there.
They would have battled through their Easter plans and showed up, but they're not.
I was impressed with the 12,000 that showed up
I was too.
in that situation. And then they showed up and they were a good crowd. They were loud and you know, they were
Interactive.
interactive and they invested in what was going on in the game. So it was a good 12,000 and I was mildly surprised that it was that many on a Easter Sunday. But yes,
And hey,
definitely top of the list for improvements, marketing and
yes,
and scheduling for season
scheduling.
2. Got to be at the top of the list.
And hey,
XFL.
the XFL in season 1 is apparently not the only one that can't figure out scheduling. This afternoon, as I was getting ready for the show and doing some other things, I was like, oh, you know what? The USFL does start this week. It is football. It is spring football, and I'm interested. I'm curious. I wonder what time Houston's game is. I'm just curious. I just want to be sure.
Don't ask
Just in
anybody in
case,
Houston. They don't know.
I want to catch it on TV because I can't go to it. But just in case I want to catch it on TV, what time is that game? That game, Houston's game this week in week 1 is at 11:00 on Sunday. And you may go, hey, that's not that bad. Yeah, it is. People are either in church or still asleep at 11:00 on Sunday. Are you kidding me? Who does an 11:00 on Sunday game in their time zone? It just doesn't. I don't know. So they're not any better at it than the than the XFL is.
I would take
Um,
11 before 9 PM though. I'll tell you that.
yes.
Yeah,
No,
true.
you're not wrong. So we've got this game against the Orlando Guardians.
That's a win.
Man, I hope so.
It has to be. It's got to be. We know
You're like,
this.
"Huh?"
Teams know this. Hines Ward knows this. Jack Cohen knows this. Everybody on the team knows this. It's
Patrick
got to
knows it.
be a win. We're at home. No excuses. We got to win that game.
Hines Ward is really frustrated that he has not delivered a win to San Antonio yet,
Yes.
to the home crowd yet. He is really, really frustrated with that. You could hear it in his post-game comments. That was the thing that really bothers him, is that he has not delivered a win in the Alamo Dome yet. And he's going to try to right that ship here. And I hope he does. Man, if we don't, but we are. Forget it. We are. We're going to win
We're
that
gonna
game.
win. We're gonna win. We got this.
We're going to win that game.
We'll have a new quarterback.
Arlington is going to lose their game because they're playing DC.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yes.
they can't beat DC.
No.
Better not. They shouldn't.
And I think the most intriguing game outside of our own, which I'm very interested in, I think the most intriguing game of the week is actually Vegas in Houston.
Yes. That's going to
Because
be a good
Houston
matchup.
can't seem to beat anybody in the North. And Vegas is a lot better than they were at the beginning of the year. And so can Vegas go into Houston with nothing to gain, like just be spoilers and beat Houston? You know what? I'm going to be there to find out because I'm driving to Houston for the 11:30 kickoff of that game. And then as soon as that game is over, right around 2 or 2:30, I'm going to hit I-10 and be over at the Alamo Dome about 3 hours later for our game.
Good luck.
Wow, you're a
I'm
big
doing
trooper.
Good
two
luck.
XFL games in the same day. That's my plan.
All right.
Good
And
luck,
we will
Uh,
see how that
Hydrate,
goes.
hydrate. That's all
I
I can
hope
say.
all goes well for you. I-10, I don't trust. Well, I don't trust I-35 even less, but
No, yeah,
yeah,
35 is-
I-10, it's a crapshoot. And then also, I can tell you 2 football games in one weekend is, man, that takes a
Rough.
toll on you. So
same day. 2 in the
relax.
same day,
2 a
man.
day. We had one
Relax.
Saturday, one Sunday.
Relax at that Roughnecks game. Don't overdo it.
Right. But I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to try to be at both games. That's my plan right now. And I really am interested in a Vegas team that is kind of found. You know, they beat us. They beat us fair and square. They beat
Yeah,
us.
they did.
Like they legitimately beat us. They were legitimately the better team on the field that day.
I still say we helped them, but yes, they did.
And then they really put up a fight against St. Louis as well. And I thought they were going to beat St. Louis. They have
They were
really
close to it.
found
They were close.
they've really found their team, and they're going to do it. Okay, well, not all of us can be you. That's why you're the mayor.
That's
mayor
why
says,
you're
"I
the
can do-
mayor.
I can do 3 in
Ooh.
one weekend, including 5,000 plus miles." Yeah,
Mayor
you're
Van
the
Hurst.
mayor, man.
Obviously, he
Here-
has a
here.
superpower.
We'll bow
He
down
has a
to you. We'll bow
superpower,
down.
and yes, yeah, and we're not making fun of that fact. I mean,
no, that's
No,
awesome.
I admire
I
that
could
you
never
can
do that. I
and
could
wish
never do
I
that.
could, but I can't, and I wish I could.
The key here, I think we win this week. I think we beat Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
I think
better.
Arlington loses to DC.
Okay.
And then that sets up week 10, where we welcome in DC on Saturday night, and then on our Saturday afternoon. And then Sunday afternoon, the Arlington Renegades welcome in the Houston Roughnecks. And I think, look, the hardest part of all of that is, can San Antonio beat DC? I see very little evidence that leads me to go, yeah, absolutely, 100%. We can. We can because Orlando did.
You got to stop the run. You got to
That's why
stop
you
the
can't.
run. If you have any
You have to stop
chance,
the run.
You have to get a quarterback.
You got to stop the run. But I'll take that. I think there's a double whammy that weekend, Philip. I think Houston would rather play Arlington in the playoffs than San Antonio. I don't think there's any doubt that they would rather play Arlington than San Antonio when it counts in the playoffs.
So you think Wade Phillips tanks week 10 to guarantee Arlington over San Antonio?
Yes, I do. I do. I think that's. I think
that's a big word.
I think that is exactly what will happen. Because
man,
they would look at the 2 games they played against San Antonio. As much as San Antonio struggles, they struggled to beat them both games.
You're right.
They will not struggle against Arlington. That's what's going to happen.
You heard it here first. Write
it down.
Make bets
That hurts.
right now.
Like, I can't imagine. Look, we got ourselves in this mess. We can't blame anybody else. We can't be like, oh, they have to play to their best ability. That's not fair. because we got ourselves in this mess. Like, we are the ones that went 2-6.
Yep.
So we can't be like, that's not fair, because it is fair.
We can't blame anybody else but ourselves.
But can you imagine to go 4-6, but with 2 wins to end the season, the last win in week 10, to be against DC, which, by the way, I think is only manageable because I think DC they won't have anything to play for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, DC has wrapped up the playoffs. They will wrap up that first seed in the North next week. They won't have anything to play for in San Antonio, so they'll be like, yeah, if San Antonio beats us, they beat us. I don't care.
I think they're going to push the second stringers too.
But for Houston, God, I didn't even think of this, Leo, but you're right. For Houston to go, God, who would we rather see next week? San Antonio, who's just beat 2 teams and is on a winning streak, or Arlington that we know we can handle? Wow, you're right. I mean, you may very well be right.
The mayor disagrees. He says Wade Phillips will never tank, ever.
That's what I said.
Wade Phillips will tank without even without even meaning to tank. Wade Phillips tanks.
I won't necessarily say he'll play it off as a tank, but this league is about getting guys opportunities to get to the next level, and he could play that card and say, I'm playing backups because we have the playoffs locked up, and I want to get these guys an opportunity to get film, be on the field. But you're tanking. That's what you're doing. But that's what that's the way he'll spin it.
Look
at Arlington.
Lane. You can leave. You can get the heck out of here.
Arlington Lane coming on our show. San Antonio won't be Orlando. San Antonio barely has a QB. San Antonio won't.
Boo this man. Boo this man.
Yes, definitely.
San Antonio won't Orlando is what Arlington said.
We thought you were our friend.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
We're going to X you out.
What a clown. What a joker you are.
Man. I thought Dirty was the troll from that show. I thought Dirty was the one that would just come in and troll you just to get a reaction. I didn't know Arlington would do the same thing. Jeez. That hurts, man. I thought we were okay. I thought we were friends, Arlington. That's tough. That's rough. I think there's still a chance. Look, we're not mathematically eliminated yet. Miracles happen. It would be miraculous. I'm not trying to downplay this and be like, oh, we got it. Like, we're there, because we're not. It would be a miracle, but miracles happen.
Yeah.
So
I think Wade's gonna pull the rug out from under us, man. I hate to be the one to break it to you, but that's what's gonna happen.
Wade Phillips, I know you listen. I know you watch. I know you're lurking out there. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Do me a favor, dude. You took a Dallas Cowboys team that absolutely should have won a Super Bowl and just absolutely underperformed. You owe me, Wade Phillips.
Oh, Lord.
You owe me.
Oh, that's funny.
Amanda. Tu Brute? I agree with A-Train. Ouch.
Ouch. We might see Philip cry.
Wow. So there are people out there that think Orlando is going to beat San Antonio this week. Man, I hope Hines Ward is watching this, sees this at some point, or anybody, we know John Navarez comes and hangs out or watches. Somebody show this to Hines Ward. Let him know that there are people out there that are not from Orlando that have absolutely counted him out to the point that they're saying he's going to lose to Orlando at home this week. Put that on the bulletin board and go out and prove them wrong, please.
That's right, for sure.
Oh, my goodness.
Or at least make us go to overtime.
Here's what I'd like to see actually this week from the San Antonio Brahmas. I want to see Paxton Lynch activated. I want to see Paxton Lynch get an opportunity to take it to Orlando and Terrell Buckley a little bit. Set him free. Set him loose. Let him do something.
I've seen Paxton Lynch set loose before. I've seen it. It's not good. It's not a good thing. It's not what you hope for. But
Somewhere.
I do hope that he proves me wrong. But I've seen it multiple times, and it's not what you want.
Now dirty in here. Oh, that's going to happen as much as I hate
Lord.
to say it.
Oh,
You, all
okay,
three of y'all.
okay. This is just
Out.
this is just this is the B-Hawks live people. This is just B-Hawks trolling us now.
Just trolling.
Yeah.
Trolling. San Antonio beats Orlando. San Antonio beats DC. And San Antonio makes the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's
And
happening.
I'm glad. I'm
Wake
actually
up, Philip.
glad
You're
that
sleeping. Wake up. You're dreaming.
I'm glad that Jason Spurgeon. I'm glad that Dirty is saying that that's what's going to happen, because when he
Because he's
says
never
something's going to
right.
happen, it always goes the other way. So thank you,
He
Dirty.
is never right.
Thank you, Dirty. So actually, I think he's helping us out. He's putting that juju out there. Thank you, Dirty. We
Arlington
love you,
says,
homie.
honestly, Paxton Lynch hasn't been a bad quarterback. He's better than the 3 they already have. Okay.
Did you watch? Come on, Arlington. Did you watch Paxton Lynch when he played for Denver? And you could say he's.
Yeah, but this isn't the NFL.
This isn't the NFL. I mean,
This is
I hope
the
he proves me
XFL.
wrong. I have said repeatedly, I hope he proves me wrong. But if you're asking me to put my hope in that, it's hard for me to do at this point.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, I've already made the call. We're going to the playoffs. We're going to win both of the next 2 games. Arlington's going to lose the next 2 games, and we are going to sneak into the playoffs. And then we're going to go to Houston on Saturday the 29th at 6 p.m. And we're going to see. We're going to see who should be the champion of the South Division. And I got to tell you, if it's Houston and San Antonio, the way those last 2 games those 2 games have been, that's a coin flip, man. Houston,
It is
beatable. San Antonio is a team that can beat them.
That's why I'm telling you what's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Stop it with that. Stop it. Stop it. So that is the XFL. Anything else XFL we need to cover? Because we got to talk about some NAL football too.
I did want to
got
kind of
NAL football to talk about. Yes,
the Brahma Mamas. The Brahma Mamas,
Yes.
just real quick. I won't be able at the game. I'm going to be at a wedding in Fredericksburg. However, I've asked some volunteers to kind of step up a little bit. I know our food collecting for the San Antonio Food Bank has been a little lackluster, to be honest. So I'm trying to make it easy for everybody. Bring peanut butter, because peanut butter makes everything better. And that's what we're hoping this with the Brahmas. So bring a jar of peanut butter. We don't have to argue creamy or crunchy, right? We don't need to talk about that. But we do need, I want my whole trunk full of peanut butter. So we'll have more details. But if you're out shopping this week, pick up a jar of peanut butter for the San Antonio Food Bank.
Please.
Help the Brahma Mamas.
Robert Rankin brought some this last game.
Yes. He listens. I love it.
Last XFL item I want to cover, because I was arguing with Dirty and with A-Train earlier last week about this. Van Hurst mentions that the South Division champion is designated the home team for the XFL championship game. Dirty and A-Train both seem to think that was wrong, that they just announced that the South Division would be the home team. That doesn't mean anything. That is a side of the field. That's all that means. It's a neutral site playoff. The only reason it would matter is if San Antonio wins. And we all recognize that that would be miraculous if that happened and gets to the championship game. That's the only reason that, and even then, it wouldn't matter if they were the home side or the road side in that game. It would still be a home crowd. So this whole, here he is. He's already jumping in here. Bogus, totally bogus. No, it's not. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a side of the field. You are getting worked up over something that does not matter. This is exactly what they do in the NFL. Next year, it'll be the North. The North will be designated the home team next year, and that's exactly what they do in the NFL. The AFC has it one year. The NFC has it the next year. They're just following that same setup. I don't know why you're so worked up about that. It's not a deal. It's a side of the field. It means nothing.
Well, I know why. I can understand both sides of the coin. I see what you're saying, Philip, and I don't disagree. Leagues do that all the time. They alternate between, one conference and the other, who hosts what. But I mean, obviously, if I'm a Battlehawks fan and my fan base has consistently been the top attending fan base in the league, and you're telling me I don't have an opportunity, or my team, my city doesn't have an opportunity to host that champion, or to host that championship, or that game, because
But we're not talking about it being hosted. The game was going to be hosted in San Antonio, no matter who was the home team or the road team.
Right.
It's a neutral site championship game, just like the NFL. And they just said, okay, this year the South is going to have it, and next year when it's in St. Louis, the North team will, which is what I think they're doing. I think St. Louis will have the championship game next year, and the North team will be, no matter who the team in the North is, the North team will be the home team, and it's fine. It doesn't matter. It's just a side of the field. So I don't see why.
I can understand.
I don't see why it's a big deal.
I can understand why that stings, but you have uncovered what's going on here. You just said that you were arguing with Dirty in Arlington, so you go on their show to pick fights, and now they're here on our show to pick fights. This is why this is what's going on. They're just getting you back, Philip. This is what this is all about.
So.
This is what this is all about.
I
got no problem with that. I have no problem with that.
XFL, all of you Brahmas fans, and those of you that aren't Brahmas fans, if you're Gunslingers fans and you're like, hey, get to the Gunslingers, we're doing that next. But you need to go get your tickets for Saturday's game. Saturday, 6 p.m., Alamo Dome. Orlando Guardians coming into town in them ugly green uniforms, and we're going to send them home with a loss. We're going to send them back to Arlington, actually, with a loss. The National Arena League kicked off on Saturday. 3 games all happening around the same time, but the only one that really matters was the San Antonio Gunslingers beating the Carolina Cobras 41-40 in a very exciting game, an exciting finish, and that's the way arena football works. It is always exciting right down to the very end, except when it's not. This one happened to be exciting all the way down to the end. Tell me about the experience in Freeman Coliseum, because I dealt with a lot of FOMO. I missed out on a lot of stuff this weekend, and I sat dutifully in my living room on my 58-inch TV, tears rolling down my cheeks, because I get to watch you guys have fun as the Gunslingers won their game, and I didn't get to be a part of all that.
Oh,
we did miss you.
That we did miss you, but it was a lot of fun.
Tons of fun.
The crowd was into it. Not as big a crowd as the last couple of games last season, but bigger than the starting point from last season. I would estimate.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever gave an
official.
I do have it. Let me pull it up.
Let's get that. I don't want to speculate, but I do see the comment here.
It was 25. It was 25,000, 2,500 or so.
I was going to guess around 3,000. I was going to ask, before we move forward, Jason Spurgeon, Dirty from St. Louis. He said that was a fun game, and I think we already started talking about Gunslingers. So I want to just make it clear. Dirty, did you watch the Gunslingers game all the way from St. Louis? You joked about seeing some of our interviews with the Gunslingers earlier on in their preseason, and said you were intrigued and we had gained a Gunslingers fan. I just want to get confirmation on that. If you did, that was awesome. If you didn't, it's okay. I understand. But if that's the game you're talking about, that was a fun game, thank you for watching. That's awesome that you did that. And yeah, for those of you that didn't watch or missed out, you definitely want to catch this next one, whether you come out live. I mean, when the next home game, but for the next few games, it's going to be a while. They're going to be away games. So watch on YouTube or look out for news coming soon where the watch party is going to be. I think they've made mention on that.
Alamo Beer, I believe.
Alamo Beer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and join us. Jason confirmed he followed on the webpage, so that's awesome.
Woo-hoo!
Yeah.
2,576 people showed up at the Freeman Coliseum to watch the San Antonio Gunslingers on Saturday night. You were two of them. You had friends and family with you. I know, Leo, you had your nephews. Is that right?
Yeah, two of my nephews came to the game with us. They had a great time. They loved it.
And I will
So,
say part of the Smokin Gunz podcast, we're very proud and very happy for our six shooters, cheerleaders. And so
Mhm.
we, as the podcast, donated and gave each cheerleader a Easter cookie. And so I talked to the cheerleaders. They were very appreciative of even that small gesture. And next game, home game, we will be providing, drum roll please, earrings like we did last year. So all the girls can have
woohoo!
the same earrings. So we love you, six shooters. You guys did an amazing
Did
job.
We
I love
did.
the long boots. Oh my God, they're so cute.
did you have to chase around the coach of the six shooters, the one in charge, to give her cookie like I had to do last year when we gave flowers?
That was the
Yeah.
Selena game. That was different. But no, I did not have to chase her. I went a little bit earlier and
Lucky you.
yes, yes, and I want to give a little shout out to April and the San Antonio Gunslingers. Francesca is doing internship with them, and so she was
Woo!
there since two
Very
o'clock
cool.
helping out. So thank you so much. I know she's going to gain tremendous amount of experience. It's a great opportunity, and she was very pleased. And I will say this: that at the end of the game, she told me, "Mom, I'm really glad I picked the major that I did. I think I'm in the right spot." So that's as a
Nice.
parent, that's great because you want your kids to be happy, right? And she was her
Yeah.
you could see in her face, she was so happy doing what she loved to do. So thank you.
So Michael Wayne Davis says, "Can the Gunslingers fix that crooked rebound net, please?" Um, Michael, Mike, did you watch the game on the feed, or were you there live? You were there live, I'm sure.
No, he was there at the game. Yeah.
I can't imagine Mike missing it. So I've got pictures. I saw what you saw, even on the broadcast. It looked really crooked when you watched it from the side. But then Leo had sent me some pictures from the other end of the field straight on, and it did not look like it was bent or out of true at all.
I didn't see it crooked.
It
So I
looked
watched.
right.
Yeah,
So
we watched from the end zone down in the party zone of the table, which is pretty much a straight on shot of both nets. And I did not notice anything crooked. Now, if there was, I could tell you this, knowing what we know, um, those nets didn't get completed installed until early that morning because of a
Right.
delay in shipping of getting the equipment there. There was some sort of delay that we heard about, and so people were working around the clock to get those nets installed. That people did not sleep the night before.
oh yeah.
But they
Yeah,
look
for
Because
great.
sure.
they were working on getting that 8 a.m. was when they finally got those installed and ready for the game that was happening at 6 o'clock that night.
Raul Nava says maybe the
Maybe,
Freeman's crooked.
Could
Hey,
be. It's an old
it's an
building.
old it's an old building. That's entirely possible.
foundation
Man,
shifted.
Amanda, our friend all the way up there in St. Louis, says, "Where can I watch these games?" You can go to YouTube, to the National Arena League's channel, and they bank all the games there, so you could watch this week's game there as well. But that's where they are broadcast live, is there on YouTube. Michelle Felix checking in. Carlos and his sons put in an all-nighter. We
Yep.
really appreciate
Amazing. Thank you.
everything.
Thank you.
Everything about Carlos, Michelle,
Thank you, Michelle.
the boys,
Carlos.
both of their
Yes.
sons that have been so involved with the Gunslingers. We know that has that partnership has ended for the time being, and we're bummed in a way, but we hope that leads to better things for you and your family, and for the Gunslingers as well. If you follow the Gunslingers, you've noticed that Carlos is no longer with the team as general manager. That's about all we can say. It's a personnel issue, and so we didn't get a lot of information, and it's not our business.
True.
So it just is what it is. Joe Ochoa, my buddy Joe, checking in. What's the reason? We haven't talked about it. We're just kind of covering that real quick here. We don't have one, and we don't need one. It's not really our business. If they want us to know, there are mediums that they can go out there and let us know. And other than that, I'm not going to dig too much.
No, we can't speculate. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
We
not
can't, we
licensed to
won't,
do
we
that.
don't want to.
Mm-mm.
I saw a lot of it on Facebook over the last day or so of people saying, "Oh, I heard it was this reason," and "Oh, I heard it was that reason," and
You don't
I'm
know.
willing to bet it was none of those. So it doesn't. It's not important. We really appreciate as a
Yes,
podcast
we do.
everything that Carlos, Michelle did for us, and the way that they welcomed us and made us a part of everything
Family.
around the Gunslingers. We really enjoyed our time getting to know them,
Yes.
and we're better for knowing them. The Gunslingers are better for
Absolutely.
them being a part of the organization for the time that they were, and that's all that really needs to be said about that. All
Yes.
that being said, the game itself was interesting. I was really hoping the Gunslingers were going to come out and just whip the Cobras. Just absolutely put a hurt on the Cobras. And that didn't necessarily happen. It was a 1-point victory. Arvell Nelson at times looked incredible.
Mhm.
Oh, he had
At,
a stretch where, yeah, he went. I don't know how many consecutive passes without an incompletion, but it went for a long stretch.
at other times he looked out of sync, but
Oh yeah.
it's the first game with a new team.
Mhm.
I think some of that is to be expected. Special teams was Ralph has mentioned this to me. Ralph Judkins, who does the broadcast, he's your play-by-play on the broadcast there on YouTube. He and I talk a lot, and he mentioned on the broadcast, and then he and I have had conversations. Special teams kind of became the story of the game when you really parse it all out and dive deep into the numbers. The Cobras missed all four of their extra point opportunities, and the Gunslingers won by 1 point. So that makes a huge difference in the game when they're
Yeah,
missing extra point opportunities.
Drew was 3
And
of 5,
yeah,
and they hit a deuce, so they got their 2 points on special teams with that deuce. But we got
and they
3.
got that bar ball, which is a special teams play that is only going to happen in Arena League. It's only going to happen in the NAL right now.
Mhm.
But they got that bar ball that bounced off the bar, and they were able to run up under it, and it's a live ball. They retained possession, kind of stole a possession away from us with that bar ball. That's the kind of weirdness that can happen with these nets and with these rebound nets, and we have to be aware of that. Like that could have hurt us. That could have cost the game. And that is a part of the fun of the arena football is
So
that
much fun.
weird bounce off the metal, off the actual
Bar.
scaffold or structure, and it gets a weird bounce, and all of a sudden anything can happen, and that's fun. It hurt us, but it was fun.
Can I say one thing that's kinda and you guys tell
No,
me agree well, I'm gonna say it anyway. Agree or disagree. So, when the Cobras were closest to us, right, I kept calling him the garden snakes. "Hey, garden snakes," like, smaller than a cobra.
right,
Greg
sure.
Greg Nelson said nobody would get that the players would not get that. I thought they would get that as an insult. Yay or nay?
Eh,
Thumbs up or no?
I like it. I mean, I like it. I
Or
think
does
it's
it take
fun.
too much thought
It's
process?
definitely smaller than a cobra, but
Well, see, my
yeah, I don't.
Jerry said, "You should have called him an earthworm. That would have been better." So, I don't know.
Joe Ochoa says, "Excuse my ignorance, but is Nelson a better talent than Bain?" Saw a lot of Facebook fodder on how great Bain is. Bain is a great quarterback. He is a good, solid, good, not good, great quarterback in the Arena League. He
Yes.
is.
Mhm.
Arvell Nelson is a champion quarterback in the league. I don't think Bain has won. No, he has won he was on a championship team. I'm not sure
He played that game.
if he was playing that year or if he was backing up, but he's been on a championship team. Arvell Nelson has won an Arena Bowl. Joe, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Arvell does some things that Jonathan Bain doesn't do, and vice versa. Arvell is a little. What's the best way to say this? Jonathan Bain has a tendency to get injured.
Yeah,
Is that fair?
a little injury prone. He's had some concerns. If you're judging the talent level, I mean, it's they're both very talented quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But all you need to know to decide if you're trying to see, well, which one is the better one, the Gunslingers signed Bane first. That's the guy they went after first,
That's
not
the one they wanted.
Nelson. That's the one they wanted. So that should tell you in their
Something.
evaluation, Bane was the guy. Now that didn't work out,
right?
and so he's
If
not there.
If you haven't been keeping up, Bane was signed way back in like November for the Gunslingers. There was a difference of opinion as to what his contract included. He saw it one way, they saw it another. They could never come to sort of a place where they were both in agreement. And so Bane said, I'm not going to report. I'm not going to show up until you guys do what I kind of think you told me you were going to do. And so they held on to his rights. They meant to, or their plan was to trade him. I really think they were kind of waiting until they got 2 or 3 weeks into the season so that they got past some of the teams that would be trading partners. Like, look, you don't want to trade a really good quarterback to the Jacksonville Sharks and then go play the Jacksonville Sharks in 2 weeks. So I think they were kind of holding out, trying to get what they want. And Jonathan Bane signed a contract with the Iowa Barnstormers of the IFL today or yesterday. And so he is going to play in the IFL, it looks like, and not be part of the NAL, which means that his rights are, I don't want to call them worthless because they're not that, but they're not as valuable as they once were.
Right.
So they could have traded him at some point and gotten something for him. Now they're not going to really get anything back. They're just going to have this, but they're not going to have to play Jonathan Bane this season either. So 6 of one, half dozen of the other. The point is, they realized once they had that issue with Jonathan Bane that they needed to go out and secure a quarterback position. They went and got Arvell Nelson, and he's good. I mean, he's a championship quarterback, and we're hoping he leads the team to another championship. So.
He was definitely the MVP of that game, of that win. He had some moments where he struggled. He had some balls that looked just awkward,
wonky.
But I mean, he had other moments that as awkward or not good as some of those moments. Like, I don't want to say bad, even though there were a couple of bad ones. There
kind
was
of out of sync.
Yeah,
just kind of out of sync.
Out of sync. Yes.
Raul Nava says, yeah, just a little shaky at the beginning. Absolutely.
Yeah, but there were some moments where you could definitely see the talent there, and you could see the athleticism. There was one play late, I want to say it was either fourth or late in the third, where the offensive lineman got beat on the end, and he turned around, and there was a guy there. You thought he was going to get blown up, and he made a move to just buy himself a little bit more time and was able to complete a pass over that defender to Philip Barnett for a first down. And I think it was a fourth down play too, where they needed to convert. And it looked like for sure that play was just going to get blown up. And he had the athleticism to get away from that pressure and make a play. And that was spectacular.
No, that was good.
The game ended on an interesting decision, but not one that I disagree with. The Carolina Cobras score a touchdown late in the game and decide to go for 2 and the win over kicking an extra point and trying to tie the game. Look, they had not made an extra point the whole game. 2 of them had been blocked. 2 more had been missed. Aside from that, you are on the road against a good team, and you have an opportunity to secure the win right away instead of pushing it into overtime and taking a 50-50 shot in overtime. I don't blame Carolina for the decision they made at all. I think Coach James Fuller made the right call. It didn't work out for him, but I don't think the extra point wasn't a given. It wasn't like, well, if we kick the extra point, we're definitely going to tie this game, because they hadn't made one the whole game.
True.
And aside from that, go for the win. When you're on the road against a team that is as good or better than you, and you have an opportunity to secure the win, you do it. You take that chance. You take that opportunity. Carolina is better than I expected them to be. the Gunslingers were obviously playing their first game of the season. Can I say it that way? Is that fair?
A work in progress, but you
Definitely.
could see the flashes of what's there and what to expect of what to come, and on both sides of the ball. But especially on I mean, something I realized as watching the game, such big moments from our receiving core, from our receivers.
Yes.
I mean, who do you if you're going up against the Gunslingers, who do you defend? Like who do you focus on and game plan against with those guys? You got Cali Rashad,
Uh-huh.
then you got if you go down the line, you got Philip Barnett.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after Philip Barnett, you have a Juice Robinson who
Right.
made some plays. And then you keep going down that line. You got Nico Thomas, who had a couple of really big catches. You got Kadir. It's just the list goes on and on and on.
That's some
And it's
really
just
good players.
such a deep position with so much talent. Obviously the big main players in this game was Kali Rashad and Philip Barnett. They had huge contributions. But any given week, it could be someone else that steps up and has a huge game, and that's just got to be a nightmare for defensive coordinators in this league.
And let's not forget
After this
Roller.
week,
Roller looked good out there. He lost some
yeah,
weight.
no, absolutely. There. Pierre Turner was amazing.
Yes.
Yes, he did so well both on offense as a running back, and on defense at linebacker. He had a couple of big stops. Roller, Cody Brooks had some big plays, a deflection
hits
that turned into that interception. Other than the hits, and I think he had a big sack. He tipped the ball that ended up being intercepted and stopped them when they had a first and goal from the 5-yard line, I believe, after a turnover. So yeah, big moments from the OG Gunslingers that are still there. They're just building on top of that, and it's really exciting to see this first game. And you say, Philip, that the Cobras were better than expected. I mean, this is a team that was in the championship game last year. Yes, they've lost some,
but a completely different team.
But I didn't expect them. Yeah, it's a different team, but there's a winning heritage there. There's a foundation there. It's hard to take an organization that's losing and turn them into a winner real quick. So just as well as a winning team, it's not as easy to turn around and be a loser right away because you just have that state of mind in the building. You know what I mean? So I expected a tough game, and it was. I did think maybe the Gunslingers had a bit tougher time with them than they thought they would, but they know what they need to work on now.
That's true. And I will say, I know that we touched a tad bit about the uniforms, and I'm going to say it out loud. I'm not a fan of those red pants. And second, we should have got a flag for so much butt crack that we saw out there. Buy him some bigger pants.
No,
I don't want those to
gotta
fall
get some
down.
bigger pants out there for sure.
We need some bigger
I mean,
pants.
the color.
My God.
Color is subjective. I won't disagree with you. The red pants are just, there was a lot of red.
I don't like it. A lot of butt.
But the fact that we saw a lot of sag on some of those big boys, the big beefy guys, I felt bad for them. I found myself wondering during the game, like, is this affecting their ability to move on the line? Is this actually affecting their performance at all? Because you can't, your footwork is a big deal as a lineman. Is that constricting you or restricting you in any way? That was a little comical. That definitely needs some improvement.
Needs some work.
And you can't ask them to lose weight.
No, I'm not asking them to lose weight. Just get some bigger pants.
Gotta get some bigger pants, man.
Man, we gotta work on that. Get a seamstress or do something, because man.
I will absolutely say that the red pants were a miss for me. I was very excited about the new look because we've been told for a couple of weeks that we were going to get a new look. And then when they came out and it was the blue jersey, I love it. The red pants, like I'll get used to it, and it's not like,
course.
oh, I hate them, but it
No.
was just a miss for me. I was like, oh, is that what we're okay? Well, yeah, all right, okay. Let's do that then. But not my
Yeah.
favorite thing, and certainly poor guy, man, hitching up his pants every play and still losing them. That was rough. I felt bad for him. But
We
every
love
time
you
they
though.
showed
We
up,
love you.
oh yeah, like not your fault. That just is
Yeah.
what it is.
Like
Yeah.
my husband says he's an extra medium. So you need a double X, triple X, 4X, something.
Jordan
Jordan,
Stubing says we noticed. Bigger
You did?
pants have been
I
ordered.
wasn't
you
the
saw
only
that
one.
too, huh?
Okay. And we're
Oh,
just
good
playing.
deal.
We love all the
Good
players. It was
deal.
a great game, and I will say I truly felt like a VIP. From walking in, getting the media pass, getting our seats. We
Mm.
were able to have a food card, and we were able to eat food. There was nachos, there was sliders, there was hot dogs, there was tea, cookies. I've never felt so special before. I mean, it was truly a
Woo!
VIP. You missed out, Philip. But
Yeah,
I
I
will tell
did.
you, thank you to the Gunslingers because that really meant a lot. We had
It,
a great table. It was funny when you could see the players coming this way. Literally, it was Kimmy, it was myself, it was Dolores. We'd all like start stepping back because we did not want our toes to get hurt. And then I had my new shoes on with the Gunslingers, and I was not going to get them ruined because of the big boys. So, but it was so funny. Almost at the same time, we all start walking backwards, save our toes, save our toes.
I'll tell you, yeah. It was a good experience, a great experience, and you're absolutely right, RC. First class treatment from the Slingers organization to the podcast, and we truly appreciate that. We noticed that they have our logo out there on the dasher boards.
Thank you for that.
They Thank you very much. They did the promo for us up on the jumbotron, where they mentioned the show, and they actually mentioned our names, and that's very cool of them to do that, and we really appreciate that, for sure. And then just the treatment and the seats, and then bonus, just a happy bonus, I think, as it ended up. Our seats is right next to longtime fans and followers of the show and friends, Greg and Kim Nelson. They're right next to us, so we get to you know jab with them and talk with them the entire game and cheer on the Gunslingers with them, and that was a lot of fun. Actually, on that subject, I need to talk about an idea that Greg came up with, and I think we need to talk about and make this happen. Um, but just to be able to stand there in the end zone and watch the fans and watch Kali Rashad
Mm.
receive kicks or return kicks and say, "Bring it to us, Kali," or "Come on, take it over, Kali." And anytime you're at a Gunslingers game and you're in an arena league football game, you're right there on top of the action.
Yes.
It's not like other 100-yard games where there's some separation between the stands and the sidelines. These players hear you and interact with you. They're high-fiving
Mhm.
fans during the games. They're talking to them, interacting them, not during the play, but in little breaks and stuff, that when they're able to,
Mhm.
they do that, and it makes it special. And we had a great time down there on the end zone, banging those dasher boards.
Oh yeah.
Um, Greg Nelson got to catch a kickoff that went underneath the nets
And I
and
knew
went
it was going to
right into
happen.
his hands, and it was a spectacular catch by Greg. Maybe they want to sign him up
Maybe,
to help
maybe.
receive kicks. I don't know. They got a guy named Kali with a number 5 on
Right.
his jersey that they
They give
probably
him some
don't have any
competition.
plans of taking out of there. So, but
There's
go
There's
ahead, go
another
ahead.
there's another whole side of this. Raul checks in and says, "I do know you guys enjoy and love going to the games, but I do miss you guys in the broadcast booth. The guys from the game were a little too much." So those of you that don't know, if you're one of our XFL fans that is just kind of stuck around, Leo and I actually got to do the broadcast for the San Antonio Gunslingers in their first year of operation when they were the American Arena League team. We got to do the broadcast. It was fun. It was a great experience. We both love being at the game more than maybe calling the game. But we had fun with it. We had a great time with it. The guys they have now, Ralph, who does the play-by-play, is, I would say, a friend of mine. He and I get along very well. I like Ralph. He is very classically trained, broadcast guy, maybe even a touch dry at times, but that's kind of what you want for a play-by-play guy. I will tell you that his partner in the booth this season, Gabe, I think is his name, is going to take a little time for me to get used to.
It was his first arena game too. So
we've been there, we've done it. It's weird. It's a different kind of thing.
Easy.
They're in a terrible spot in the Freeman Coliseum. There is no press box in the middle of the field for you to be in. You're actually all the way down on one end in the end zone up over the field. It's really a bad spot to call games from. It'll get better. It'll absolutely get better. And they'll get a better rapport with one another. So Raul says they were a little much. It'll just take some time for them to gel and they'll be fine. I did like the broadcast. I do wish that the NAL would do a few things. And this is not something from me. This is actually something I've heard all over the NAL message boards and conversations over the past couple of days. They need to standardize the graphics packages for all the games. When you watch the San Antonio game versus the West Texas game versus the Orlando game, everybody is doing things a little different graphically. It's so easy for the NAL to just say, hey, here is the standard graphics package we want you to use for games. Here's the score bug. Here's this stuff. Use that. And then if you want to add some things to that to make your broadcast your own, go for it. They need to do that just to standardize the broadcast. And then they need to be much more communicative on new rules and how they affect the game, particularly scoring. If you've watched the broadcast, you know why I bring this up. Mm-hmm. It was a mess in our game. It's not Ralph and Gabe's fault. They were going with whatever information they had, and they could not make sense of what they were seeing on their screen. And from what I can tell, it was the same there in the venue. You guys had the wrong score for the first half. They couldn't explain why. People kept asking on the chat, and they just couldn't make sense of it.
So they awarded a point to the Cobras for a kickoff that didn't go into the field of play because it hit the Jumbotron at the top. And then they were, I guess, they were working on figuring out if that was the correct interpretation of that rule, because as we've discussed before on the show, Philip, you're the one that had pointed this out, that, you have to make the kickoff playable to the other team. If you intentionally kick the ball out of play, then you give the other team a point. But seeing as how the Jumbotron is obstructive and a kick, it's not like the kick was going off to the side. I can understand why that should be an exception, because the kicker's doing his best to get the ball underneath that Jumbotron or around it, but he's also got a job to do and try and get in the deuce, which means he has to try and line that kick up perfectly centered. Well, if it's perfectly centered, that Jumbotron's going to be in the way a lot of the time. So if it hits it, it hits it, but you shouldn't award a point to the other. If that were the rule, I would have a problem with that. I would think I would have a real problem with that.
See, and even now in our own comments, guys are saying, I think they awarded that point for this, and somebody else comes back and said, no, they didn't. It was awarded for this. Here's the thing. No extra points were ever awarded. There was a point, a phantom point showed up on the scoreboard that was never awarded by the officials. It was not a point that counted. And at halftime, they went back and adjusted the score back to 19-12, which is what it should have been. But that point that just showed up, they scored, they being the Cobras, scored a touchdown, missed the extra point. They should have been at 6. And then randomly, it just jumped up to 7. Somebody in the production area probably hit a button and added a point that they didn't mean to add and did not notice from their end that it was there. And when they were able to finally at halftime communicate it, it got fixed. But I don't think that point ever got awarded by anybody. I don't. It was just a phantom point that then got taken care of.
Yeah, Michael Wayne Davis reinforces what you're saying. He says that he watched it closely over and over, and that the point was actually awarded between the kickoff and the extra point when nothing really was happening to award a point either way. So I was going on the information that the broadcast had said, because they even kind of had discussed that.
They were confused. Like they didn't understand why they were seeing this extra point either. And they were trying to explain why. And you even have Gabe saying several times, I will retract my retraction. I will retract my retraction of my retraction.
Yeah.
Too much.
So Michael Wayne Davis says he was about to storm the production area Braveheart style. Please don't. Those guys are doing the best job they can. They'll get it right. It's the first game for them too. It's the first game for our players. It's the first game for our coaches. It's the first game for our production folks. And it is the first game for our referees, which brings me to a point that I want to point out. Gary is our white hat in San Antonio. I love it. Yes. Gary has been a part of the officiating crew around the San Antonio Gunslingers since the AAL days. He was on the crew back then. He was on the crew last year. In fact, he is the referee. He is the official that got run over by Devin Wilson in the Jacksonville Jaguar game that caused Devin Wilson to get a year-long suspension for running over a referee. That was Gary. And now Gary is the head of the officiating crew that will probably work a majority of our games here in San Antonio. And you could not be a better guy. Gary's a great guy. He's very down to earth. He's whatever you might say about him as an official. Some of you Gunslingers fans are not going to like him. But I think he's fair. And I think he's a great guy once you get to know him. And I realize you guys don't necessarily have the option like we do to do that, but Gary's great. I was very excited to see Gary wearing a white hat. That's a big deal.
Yeah, you pointed that out in a text to me during the game, and it was awesome. And the officiating was pretty done pretty well. Yeah, it was pretty good. The game flow was very good. I mean, I don't know exactly how long the game took, but it was definitely under 3 hours. We had some games in the last season that were coming up on 4 hours because of all these deliberations and issues with the officiating. So definitely big improvements made there. And I know the NAL made a conscious effort to educate officials and get them up to speed and work on that. You were talking earlier about a more unified broadcast. And I agree with you, but I was just going to make the point of one thing at a time. You know, they took care of the officiating this time around. Maybe they'll do some work with the broadcasting crews next time. But the officiating was definitely the major point that needed addressing. And going off of this first game, it looks like they did a really good job. The crew did a good job.
Leo, what was it that Greg had suggested? You said
So. Speaking of, and this actually has to do with rules too. We're on the end zone there, and we're banging on the dasher boards. And I forgot what Greg said he hit the dasher board with. He hit it with something. Maybe it was one of the cowbells. And he said that someone from his group that was clear across on the other side of the arena heard the noise he made when he was hitting it. And he said, we can make a lot more noise hitting these dasher boards with something other than our hands and our arms. Not to mention that it also hurts after a while. I can tell you firsthand, it hurts after a while. But he said, I don't understand. Why can't we just have paddles? Why can't we have that be a thing where we have paddles for those of us that are brave enough to stand right on the dasher boards and bang on these dasher boards to make noise and be a distraction to the visiting team. And I was like, that'd be a great idea. They allow cowbells, so why not paddles to hit these walls? And yeah, that would make a significant amount of noise. Greg went as far as to ask people there that were, the crew from the Freeman Coliseum, and they said, "Oh, we don't care what you guys do to make noise. That's something you need to ask of the organization, the Gunslingers." So then Greg went on down, made his way around, and went straight to Mr. Rackler himself, all the way to the top, and said, "Hey, I've got an idea. Because I'm sitting down there. Is there any reason why we can't have paddles and hit these boards?" And he said that Don's response was, "I don't care what you do. You want to make noise? You want to make noise? And yeah, go for it. Have at it." And so he's like, "Well, why don't the Gunslingers make this a thing? We got several weeks till the next home game.
That's true.
Let's have paddles that we can bang on these dasher boards to make a lot of noise when it's time to be loud and be a distraction to the other team's offense." So he's already making plans of, I think, making his own, but he's also hoping that we can get this out there. And I told him I mentioned it on the show to whoever will listen from the actual Gunslingers organization, because they always like to do things for more interaction from their fans. The cowboy bell thing was a great idea. I think paddles might be something. Now, we don't want those paddles ending up on the field. But cowbells could end up on the field too, and we have a good set of fans that we have, that hasn't been an issue. So banging big old paddles on those dasher boards during the game, I think that would be something that would definitely be loud.
Jordan Stubing, we will look into making that happen. Let's bring the noise.
Yeah,
definitely bring the noise. And our house.
I love that fans can have an idea, and we have this way that we can conduit that idea over to the team and maybe see some of those things happen. Not everything is going to happen.
Right.
But some of that stuff that we can see happen.
Did y'all see when I threw that T-shirt to the second level?
No, good toss.
Yeah, right. No one did. No one did. It went straight up, straight down. I got to work on that. I don't know what the problem is. I'm trying.
Oh, RC in the back of the truck throwing out T-shirts for everybody with the 6 shooters.
Literally, it landed on the field. No one was even.
Oh man! So the Gunslingers are not in town this week. They travel out to Jacksonville. They're going to take on the Sharks. They are going to play on Saturday night at 6 p.m. And if you look at things and you're like, wait a second, that's when the Brahmas are playing here in San Antonio. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, you are correct. Mm-hmm. That is correct. The Brahmas will be playing the Guardians here, and the Jacksonville Sharks will be hosting our Gunslingers out in Florida. So a little different way to enjoy the game this week. You're going to have to go to your Brahmas game, enjoy that, and then go home and watch the broadcast maybe, or you can go to the watch party for the Sharks game, for the Gunslingers game. I believe they're going to do that at Alamo Brewing Company. Alamo Beer Company. I'm sorry, you're right.
Alamo Beer Company is literally a hop, skip away from the Alamo Dome.
So you can go hang out at their watch party and then go watch the Brahmas game at home on ESPN Plus later that evening. You got options. And we've said this since we knew that this was going to be an issue, is, hey, I'll take conflicts in my football games over no football at all. I'd rather have 2 teams that I have to make a choice on than no teams where I don't have any choice. But they will travel to, I'm very interested to see how they play Jacksonville. Jacksonville looked really good, but Jacksonville looked really good against West Texas, a team that is new to the National Arena League. And so we don't really know what that means. They won 54-26 over the West Texas Warbirds, but we don't know if that means Jacksonville's really good or West Texas still has to do some work, or, we don't know what that means. Maybe. Jacksonville has traditionally been a pretty good team. And like you talk about winning culture, they are a team that has some winning culture. And so I would expect them to be a tough team. The Gunslingers got a real tough first 3 games. I think we've talked about this before, but they hosted Carolina, who was in the championship game last year. They host Jacksonville, or they go to Jacksonville, who is always one of the top teams in the NAL. And then they go to Albany and play the champions. That's their first 3 weeks. We're going to know a lot about this team at the end of week 3, and what their chances are at being a championship team. I will tell you that we are efforting. We are trying to get Coach Fred Shaw on the show each week as we wrap up one week and move on to the next week and get kind of his head coach perspective. We had to move this week to Tuesday again. This is like the 3rd week we've done this. This is not our plan. Yeah. Our plan is Monday, and Monday he doesn't have practice, and he can join us on Mondays. Leo wasn't feeling well. I had an issue pop up. We just could not do last night. So we moved it to today, and that just caused some issue with Coach Shaw's schedule. He was going to try to pop on, but we have not heard from him yet. I don't imagine he's going to make it at this point. But we do want to have him on and just get his perspective, because we don't get a post-game press conference in the NAL right now. And we want to kind of get some post-game ideas of what he saw and what needs to be improved. What did you see, Leo, that you think Coach Shaw needs to be looking at improving moving forward?
Well, I would definitely say the defense had some breakdowns in coverage that I know he wasn't happy with.
Sure.
And so that's something that needs to be worked on. I think the overall cohesiveness of the offense, getting Nelson on the same page with his line and receivers. There were several moments where there were some balls thrown where I think receivers were maybe running a different route than he thought, because there was nobody there. There were quite a few, at least 3 occasions where we were lucky the ball wasn't intercepted. So you could definitely see that there's some work that needs to be done as far as kind of getting that unit to gel. So I'm certain that he's wasn't happy with that or where it is at this particular time, and that needs some work. And then just working on some defensive situations, especially in the coverage. There were some big moments where the coverage broke down. Of course, it's arena football, and that's going to happen. So we know to expect that. We've seen that time and time again. But we know that the coaches expect a level of excellence, especially with the level of talent that they have. Now, they were down a couple of guys. They were down a key guy in the defensive back because of an injury. So there's that, and hopefully Banks is better soon. But I think that, and then I think Coach needs to work a little bit on himself. He had a penalty called against him for being out.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
And I noticed him out there, even on occasions, even after that, where I think the referees were being a little bit lenient with him. But he didn't seem to understand, especially he was arguing the call when it happened. So at least get an understanding of what the rule is. According to the broadcast team, he has to remain an arm's length away from the dasher board and behind the offense at all times, and he wasn't. So that's something to really be make sure he gets clarity on, especially playing these away games, because that might have been a little bit of home cooking there of them not getting on him so much for that.
Look, I know in the years that I've covered football, officials do not want to call sideline warnings, or sideline penalties, which is what that ultimately is a sideline warning, sideline penalty. They never want to call that. But if you force them to, they're going to. And I have a feeling I would love to talk to him a little bit more about this. They probably had already said something to him a couple of times before they finally flagged him for it. That's what I would expect. But ultimately, they don't ever want to call that penalty. And if they call it, they're not just being mean, or they're not just throwing around their weight. There are times officials do that, but I've never seen an official want to call a sideline penalty on any level of the sport. It's just such a crappy penalty to call. You don't feel good about calling it. You don't feel good about having to enforce it. They're mad at you immediately because it feels like it feels wrong. Nobody wants to call that penalty. Miles Kelly was the Carolina Cobras player that was injured in the midst of the game. He did hit social media about yesterday, right about this time yesterday, and said that he appreciates the thoughts and prayers. He'll be back in no time. Minor setback leads to a major comeback. So he is doing better,
Good for him.
doing something.
That was a scary moment. That looked like it could have been really bad.
Yes.
Yeah. The Gunslingers will travel to Jacksonville. The Brahmas will be here at home. And we will be excited to watch and break down all of that next week. 1-0. Like, both teams need to be concentrating on 1-0. The records up to this point don't matter. It doesn't matter that you beat Carolina. That means nothing. It doesn't matter that you lost to Houston if you're the Brahmas. That means nothing. Concentrate on the game in front of you. Win this week. That's all you can do.
One week at a time.
And both teams need to have that mentality. I know that Coach Shaw is big about being 1-0.
Yep.
He has mentioned several times that his goal every week is to be 1-0. Previous record doesn't matter. What's coming up in the future doesn't matter. It's all about getting this win this week. And we know that that's their concentration. You made a note, Leo, that when you arrived at the Freeman, you told me something about the team as a whole. You've been around this team since their inception. This is their third season. Something stood out to you. What was it that stood out to you when you first saw the team on the field warming up, getting ready?
The all business attitude. I mean, you're right. We've been around since the beginning. We've been able to, been fortunate to have access and be in there while guys are warming up, getting ready, from the start, where you're excited just to be there because, you're the start of something new and not knowing what to expect. So you had that. And then last season is kind of the first season in the NAL, and they came in, I think, a little bit overconfident. Thinking that they were going to come in and do better than what they were. They thought they knew more than they actually did. So you saw a little bit of overconfidence there, and we were confident too. We were the same. We shared that outlook. I'm not saying we didn't, but you could just see the difference in their demeanor, in the way they're warming up, in just their focus. Where before it was really easy to approach a player before a game and like talk and joke and kind of get their thoughts or talk to them, interact with them a little bit. It's not that they don't want to interact with us. It's just that when I got there and I was kind of walking around while they're warming up, I could feel it. I could feel this sense. It was like, I need to just give them their space, because right now they're working. They're putting
They're in
in
the
work.
zone. They were in the
Yes,
zone.
you could see it. You could see it in their demeanor, in their faces. They were focused. They were serious. Everything that they were doing to prepare for the battle ahead of them. They weren't looking around. There was, not as much joking with each other amongst the players. It was just all focused, all business. Like, these guys know what the goal is this season, and they know the work that it's going to take to get there. And I think they're all on that same line of thought, that same train of thought. You could really see it before the game. That's what struck me.
That's great.
Yep.
Well, they will play this weekend. We hope that they go to 2-0. We hope that they send a message to Jacksonville, because Jacksonville is one of those teams that just seems to always rise to the top in this league. And taking your game on the road and being dominant over Jacksonville will say a lot about this team and about who they are. I expect them to get better. Like they were good on Saturday. I expect them to get better as they continue to gel together. I'm stoked. I really think that it's not an unbelievable thing for them to win a championship in their second year in the league. And so that's what it's all about. Like every time players post something, I try to go behind them and tag on the hashtag hardware because the whole goal of the season needs to be trophies.
Yes, that's what they're after. Yeah, and these next two.
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say these next two games. You're right, Philip. Are statement games for this team on the road at Jacksonville and Albany. And I just wanted to mention, don't look. We're doing 1 week at a time, but when that week comes up for Fayetteville, let's see what they do over the next couple of weeks. But they broke the record for points scored in an opening game this past weekend. I think they scored 68 or 66, but they beat they now hold the record for the NAL for most points.
They did. They beat Orlando.
It was Orlando, yes, but still.
And we talked earlier about teams that have kind of a winning pedigree.
Yes.
Unfortunately, in the recent past, Orlando has kind of been one of those teams that always seems to fall to the bottom, as opposed to the teams that rise to the top. And so it was against Orlando. We don't really know what any of these mean. We don't know what our win over Carolina means. We don't know what Jacksonville's win over West Texas means. We don't know what Albany is because they haven't played. By the way, we haven't even mentioned huge story in the NAL at the end of last week when Antonio Brown announced that Antonio Brown, the one you're thinking of, announced that he was now the majority owner of the Albany Empire, that he was moving to Albany, that he may play. And that same night, longtime coach, two-time champion, back-to-back champion, Tom Menas was left the team. I don't know if he was released or he left on his own. We don't really know. But all of that happened with 10 days before they start their season. They were on a bye this week. They start on Saturday. And all of that happened. That was a big story. So we don't know what any of this means. It's week one. We've just finished up a week one, and we don't know what any of that means. What I do know is that we're 1-0, and I'd rather be 1-0 than 0-1.
Yep.
We're on the right side of the line right now. Albany is that center line that has nothing. There are some the teams that are 1-0 and some teams that are 0-1, and we're on the right side of the chart right now.
Yep. Especially when you're 1-0 and that was your one home game
for a long time.
What is it? May 28th. Yeah.
May 28th is the next time they're in the Freeman Coliseum. That is a game against the Jacksonville Sharks. That's the Jacksonville Sharks coming into Freeman Coliseum.
And for people that are wondering why that's so long, it's because it's graduation season, and Freeman Coliseum is booked with graduations, as we know that they get a lot of those. So, and I'm sorry, RC, you were about to say something.
I was going to say, I know Philip had mentioned hardware, and I was going to say congratulations to the player that got engaged after the game.
Oh, yeah.
Otis.
Yeah, so congratulations.
Pulling up his first name now. I hate that I don't know it. It's Joshua.
There you
Josh
go.
Otis. After the game, proposed.
Good thing they won.
Got a yes. Good thing he got a yes. Like
yes.
Talking about pressure, right?
When you do it in public, man, you better be sure you're getting the yes.
Yeah.
He was really motivated after that win.
That's why I did mine in private. I did my proposal in private because I was like, she could realistically say no to this. I don't want anybody else to see this. So I made sure I did mine in our apartment in private because if she says no, I don't want to be like that guy. There are some YouTube videos of that out there of guys getting proposals refused, and like I don't ever want to be that guy.
No.
That's rough. But congratulations to Josh Otis and his fiance. That's exciting. What a cool day. A win. And then you get that's nice. Hashtag Gunslingers.
Ring slingers. Yeah.
Jordan Stevens says the Gunslingers are 1-0. The Brahmas are 2-6. Both have games on Saturday at 6 o'clock. I will be at the Brahmas game. I will be catching the. I will be watching the score. Like I normally try to wait, and like if I'm going to watch the game later, I just don't interact with it and try to keep it off my. But I'll be watching the score. Hopefully from the press box of the Alamo Dome, I'll be watching the score of the Gunslingers game. Hope they take it to Jacksonville. I know that's what they're looking to do. Go to one of the game. Go to a game. Go to a watch party. Interact with football in San Antonio. San Antonio.
Yes.
You can't gripe for years and years and years about not having a chance to go to the games. And you know what? If you're out there and you're like, well, I want to go to the games. I want to go to this Brahmas game. I haven't been to one yet. I'd love to go to the Brahmas game. I don't know that I can afford to go to the game. Guess what?
Guess what?
RC's got something for you.
I got 2 free tickets. 2 free tickets. They're in the end zone. Nice, popular place to be. Not over near the Brahmas, but on the other side. But it's still a great time. Lots of fun. So how are we going to do to give away the 2 tickets to whoever wants them? Just contact me. Or what do you guys think?
They're your tickets. You know. I thought you had a plan.
No plan. So I have 2 tickets. If someone needs them, maybe it's an anniversary gift, maybe it's a birthday gift.
Maybe you just want to go to the game. A couple of years ago, last year maybe. No, I'm sorry. In the Commanders days.
Oh wow, going way back.
We had a set of tickets that got given to us by some fans that were going to go to a game, and then they weren't able to go work or whatever. And they said, "Hey, can y'all just give these away?"
Mm-hmm.
And Jeremy Knox.
Yes.
Was the one that showed up that day. He brought his son and he came, and he was a big Commanders fan from that point on. He was a Gunslingers fan from that point on.
That.
He got hooked into just because somebody wasn't able to use their tickets. So there's another opportunity for somebody to step up and say, hey, I can give up a Saturday afternoon and go check this out if it doesn't cost me anything. Maybe that's all it needs to make a fan.
Send us a message on the Smokin Gunz podcast Facebook page, and whoever's the first one, they're yours.
Smokin Gunz podcast. It's Smokin Gunz Pod on Facebook. Smokin no G, Guns with a Z, POD. And you can find us on Facebook if you're watching another way there, on Twitter or on YouTube. Go to our Facebook page, send us a message on there. RC, I, and Leo will all see it. And we'll get you set up and get you a couple of tickets to the game so you can go check out the Brahmas. How about that? How's that for a giveaway?
That's a good one.
Awesome.
Chance to go see the game. Even if you're not going to go see the game, support your football, support your local football, support the Brahmas, support the Gunslingers, both preferably, and get out there and watch. Because when it comes to professional football, in San Antonio and around San Antonio, when it comes to professional football on the 100-yard gridiron or the 50-yard fight, inside the arena or outside on the field or even in the Alamo Dome, when it comes to professional football in Jacksonville, when it comes to professional football for those Orlando Guardians, it turns out we are learning every day that the 210 has got something to say.
Bang, bang.
All right. Thank you so much, folks, for hanging in there. We really do want to get Coach Shaw on here. He wanted to jump on with us, but it's a practice night. And so if practice ran long at all, and hey, I'm okay with that. I'd rather them be practicing than talking to me.
Right.
So traditionally when we do Mondays, he'll be here with us at least for 10 or 15 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes, talking about the game. Bye, RC.
Yeah, she had to go. She had a hard stop.
Yeah, she was hard out at 9:15. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Share the episode, share this video if you would, or share the episode as it comes out in the morning on the podcast channels, all of them, like any of them, any and all. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, we got them all. Good night, Michael Wade Davis. Good night, Amanda. I know you're still hanging out with us. Jordan, all of you folks that are still hanging out with us. We really appreciate y'all spending some time with us for a couple of hours every week and talking about football. We love to do it. We do it, I think, even if nobody showed up. So it's a lot more fun with you guys showing up and talking with us. We will see you guys soon. Thanks so much.
Have a good night, y'all.